been training really hard recently. I feel like I've got a bunch of like scratches all over my face. So guys, we got a good question from our buddy Reformed Lurker 84. He sends a question in on YouTube, and it says that he recently noticed that he's been gassing out from the feet more so than any other position. And he's wondering if I have any tips on how to overcome that. He's also saying that he knows that the best thing to do is obviously roll from that position more. But he's wondering if there's anything outside of the gym, cardio-wise, that he can do. He says currently he cycles 18 miles a day, averaging 15 miles per hour. But again, just looking for some tips to improve on his ability not to gas out from the feet. So first off, thanks for the question. And before I share tips on how to improve inside and outside of the gym, let me get you to think about an analogy real fast. If you've driven a stick shift manual, then this will make a lot of sense. If you haven't, maybe not as much. But basically, think about a gear, like a car with like a 5-speed, right? First gear, you put the car in and you put it in first gear and you start moving, right? It uses up the most fuel, but you don't get it going very fast, right? You're just, that engine starts whining really quickly. And then you shift it into second, third, fourth, and fifth, until eventually when you're in fifth gear, you're just moving. You're moving super fast, but you're not using nearly as much fuel as first gear, right? Think about that like belts, right? White belt being first gear, right? You're using all kinds of energy, but you're not really going anywhere. And then once you get to black belt, you're in fifth gear. You're floating, man. You're accomplishing way more for the same amount of fuel that you've used, right? Energy, cardio, whatever you want to call it. And so you're worried about building up this big gas tank initially, right? Because you're kind of going back to the cardio route. So you want to get your gas tank bigger. But think about it with the car. You can have a big old gas tank on that car. You can make your gas tank bigger. But the problem is that you're still going to be just spewing through this stuff because you're stuck in first gear. And I imagine that is probably due to inexperience, because you specifically said on the feet rather than any other position on the ground. And so the biggest thing, as you said in the message, the biggest thing is time in that position. And the reason is because you've got to essentially shift gears, right? You've got to become more efficient at positions. And the way that sort of shifting gears happens is, one, by being in the position, but the reason is because what happens is when you start rolling from the feet, from the ground, any position, right? Because anytime you first start, everybody's in first gear when they first start, right? When you first start as a white belt, you're all over the place. You use a lot of energy. Over time, though, you start to become kind of aware with what's going on. A lot of times you'll start to notice that, you feel like, say, for instance, inside of the guard, you feel someone grab on the arm. You know what that is now. You pull your elbow back and you start defending, whereas before, you were always a second late and you're trying to react to what they're doing. And it's the same way on the feet. As you train more and more and more on the feet, you'll start to notice reoccurring patterns, reoccurring techniques that happen again and again. And when you start to notice those, you'll start to notice those a lot of times subconsciously, and you start to adjust. And what this does is this means you don't have to react all the time. And what I mean by react is the other person's initiating, and then you're having to play catch up. And that'll wear you out. A lot of times if you roll with a black belt or someone higher, right, that's, you know what I mean, like someone that's higher above you, that's what's going on, right? They're ahead of you. And you're trying to play catch up, and it wears you out. So you've got to shift gears. So the first way to make that happen, obviously, is like you said in the message, is roll more from that position. Start on the feet. Now, another thing that you can do to improve along with this, right, is to make sure that you have a game plan, or at least have a systematic approach to what you're doing. It doesn't have to be down to a T, but you need to have some options on both sides of their body when you're standing, right? And the reason I say this is because most people kind of have at least a kind of go-to or a systematic approach on the ground, but then once they're on their feet, they're just like, I'm rolling. There's a train coming. Of course, I feel like this video is going really well, and then there's a train. So we'll just wait and I'll cut this out. Fucking train. So when people start on the ground, they have a systematic approach typically. They're like, I'm going for the arm bar, the triangle, this, that, whatever. When they're passing or on the feet, on the mount or side control or dominant position, right? Whenever they're in those positions, they kind of have, I'm going for this, and then I go for this, that kind of thing. So you want to have that for the feet. You want to have, I'm trying to get the person to step on this foot, and if they do, I go for this. If they don't, and I get this foot, I go for this. And the reason I say both sides is because some people will stand dominant on one foot or the other, and then also a lot of times if you start to attack one side, a lot of times they might compensate for that and switch the stances a little bit, so then you can attack the other. But have an approach to it, have some go-to. So this way, even if you have to change up the game plan a little bit on the fly, at least you have a starting point to go after. And that will allow you to be on the offensive rather than letting them be on the offensive and then again having to react. The last thing I guess we'll touch on, man, is you said cardio tip, right? Like what's something to do with cardio? You said you're cycling like 18 miles or something like that. I would suggest you kind of get away from that. If you're getting ready for a competition, or if you have kind of a time limit that you typically use at your gym, right? Maybe it's 6, 7 minutes, 8 minutes, whatever it might be. What I would suggest to you is like get on a bike, or a stationary bike, or row, or whatever it might be. You can even do some of the movement drills that I have on the website, and do whatever cardio you want to do, and do it in bursts. You can do those for 20 seconds, 10 seconds, 30 seconds, whatever you want to do, just bursts, right? Intervals. And the way that I suggest people do it, and the way that I have my guys do it, and the way that I've personally got the most benefit is fast for whatever that burst time limit is, that whatever that duration is, and then slow. I don't stop, I just go slow, and then start up again, slow, start up again, slow. And so you're trying to give as much as you can in that burst, and then you kind of slow down. And to me, that mimics a match more than it does if you just do like a long sort of constant paced cardio. And when you do that, make sure that, again, what I'm getting to about the time is set the timer for the duration of the match that you would be subjected to. So let's say, for instance, if you do 6-minute matches, all right, we're going to set these intervals for 6 minutes totaling. We'll take a few minutes in between, and then we'll do a couple rounds, and it'll be kind of like, sort of simulating what it would be like to get ready for a match and have multiple matches, or excuse me, for a tournament and have multiple matches. So, guys, I hope that helps you if you're having trouble gassing out on the feet. Reformed Lurker, thanks for the question. I'll talk to you guys next time.